Hello, dear children. Please follow along with me as I draw the image of Adam and Eve in the garden. Here I have our yellow main lesson book, and I will open it up until we get to the page that is blank. This page is right after the Kumulipo page. It should be blank and ready to go. The drawing will go on this side and the writing will go on this side. But today we are working on only the drawing. So go ahead and fold the page back and get your area ready to begin. We will be using crayon to work on this picture. Now there will be a lot of new elements to this piece of art that perhaps we have not used before in our drawings. One element is the element of depth. That means looking like something is behind something else, like the picture goes deeper and deeper in. So as we draw the figures, think of ways to make it seem like something is behind something else. I'll show you what I mean. So what I like to do first is sketch the people that we will be including in this drawing. Very, very lightly, I will begin with the shape of Eve. Her face. Very, very lightly. You can barely even see it in the camera. Now I'm choosing a brown color because, as you remember from our story, Eve was very comfortable in the garden. They were outside in the sun and the sunshine, so her skin is tanned. I like to also sketch where Adam is going to be, a little bit below, and adding some depth. He is closer, a bit closer to the camera, to the viewer, than Eve is. So for Eve, this is the circle that represents her face, and this one is Adam's. And she is going to be reaching down and passing the apple to Adam. Here's her arm and the side of her face, but I will use her hair to cover her body. And leave some space right there in her hand for the red apple. Fill in Eve's face a bit. Maybe her jaw, so that you can tell the difference between the rest of her body and the edge of her face. We can add some more hair to cover her up. And anywhere that you have two bits of skin, next to each other, it could be good to add a little bit of a shadow, right? So that you can tell that this is the edge of her arm. Oops. Eve. We'll add some more detail to her in a bit, but that is good for right now. with just some shadows here. And we have Adam receiving the apple. Now Adam is also tanned, but he's looking sideways to Eve. Her face is like this, with maybe if we had eyes and a nose, but he is completely sideways. So it could be really good practice to practice your noses. And his chin. Right? He's got long hair too. Not as long as Eve's, but here is our Adam. With his neck, he is looking up at Eve. Maybe make his chin a bit bigger so it's balanced. There we go. And he's turned to the side, so here's his arm. Again, with a shadow to help define the edge in his body. He is reaching up. Sometimes if two characters are touching the same object, maybe I like to start with the hand. So I know where to connect it, right? This is his hand holding on, and this is his elbow. Bring it down. Again, we're filling in, but if there's two bits of skin that are meeting, we want to have an edge to define so that it doesn't all blur together. If things look a little funny, it's okay to go back in and fill out if you needed to add better detail. What I was going to say is, can you tell how it seems almost like Adam is closer, right, than Eve? Eve is a little bit further in the background. He looks a bit bigger and closer to us. And we'll add to that kind of illusion by the way that we add in our plants and trees. So I would take some green and add around the bottom of Eve to cover her body. Right, just individual leaves. So it looks like she's behind this bush here. Maybe the closest thing to the viewer, to us, is Adam, then the bush, and then Eve, right? Creating kind of depth. That's our focus here, depth. And I'll go back in with maybe a darker brown if you have one. If you have other crayons at home, boys and girls, that have extra colors, I am okay with you using them. It could even be nice to layer some, maybe just have a darker branches of this bush here. Some are dark brown with some black to accent. Then we can even use maybe the side of our crayon to be the furthest or the closest parts of this bush here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's going to be looking at it and saying, hey, what kind of a bush is that? We're using our imagination to create a beautiful and lush garden with all kinds of different leaves and foliage. This one I'm making here has leaves that are more connected and less separate. But again, you see how right here I am adding, right here I'm putting Adam's arm in front. So if you can try to work on an illusion to make that color look like it's behind, that bush looks like it's a bit behind Adam's arm. I love the idea of just trying to add in elements of depth. What's behind what and what's in front of what. We can even add, let's see, a little flower to this bush. And fill in the rest with color. And perhaps going back to our darker green, some grass in front of Adam to help cover his body. And perhaps some different flowers, maybe long flowers. Really, you can be creative here and add in all kinds of little details. Maybe tuck in a long flower here. Whatever is going to fill in the page and make it really look lush, because this garden is paradise. Remember, it is just the most amazing, special place. And once we have more foliage, more grass to help cover Adam, we can go ahead and fill in his body. And even maybe a suggestion of a rib cage or of abdominals, right? Maybe a collarbone, a suggestion of a collarbone, a suggestion of a muscle here. A suggestion means that you're not pressing super hard to make these things visible, but it's nice to add in some details and shading to really kind of make it seem like this is a real human with a real body. And even with Eve, we can add in some suggestions here. So that's what we have so far. And you can see that she's got the apple, maybe even add in a little stem from the apple. But we're still missing the serpent. So what I would do is I wish I had another shade of brown. Maybe you have a different shade of brown. And if you do, you can use it to make a dark tree branch. We're going to go about halfway to make the, sorry, not the branch, the, oh dear, the trunk. That's what I'm thinking of. The dark tree trunk. And we're going to work on our serpent. So our serpent is wrapped around the tree in this picture. So here's his tail. But you can only see the bits that are close to us, right? So you can make a suggestion of a tree so you can see where we're going with this, but not too hard, right? Just a suggestion. And this part of the snake is tucked behind the tree. Oops, I messed up a little bit, but that's okay. And it goes around the branch, and then guess what? It pops around the other side and wraps around. So it starts here, travels up, goes around the tree and comes back out this way and tucks up behind and comes back around and comes up behind. And finally, there's a small tree branch here. And the snake is wrapped around the smallest branch. Right, so this is the tip of the tail, goes around. You can't see it anymore because it's in the back, and it pops out again and wraps around, and then it goes around back and you can't see it anymore, and then it comes back around. And while it's back there, it comes up right here a little bit onto the tiny branch, and then the great serpent's head. So for the head, it's almost like a circle shape here, almost a complete circle with a little snout. And you can go ahead and fill it in. And he's watching, he's looking down and seeing what he has asked Eve to do and what she is asking Adam to do. This is a great time for some detail, boys and girls. An eye, an all-watching eye down here. And a slithering tongue, right? Slithering tongue, I'll bring that close so you can really see. And here you have freedom to add in your details. Perhaps it's a snake, a yellowish greenish snake with a yellow belly. And then you would choose all these bottom parts to make the belly detailed with yellow. Maybe your snake has a pattern on its back. Maybe a pattern of orange detailed stripes. This part is up to you. And the same way that we added a little bit of a highlight when there's too much skin against other skin, you can do the same with the snake. Just a little bit of an accent so that you can really see that this snake is fleshy and round and wrapping around this tree. It's not a flat snake. We want to make it look like it has dimension. Once you finish with that, we can fill in the base of our tree trunk. If you have a darker brown, I think it would work so nicely because right now I only have one light brown. And I think that it's too close to the skin color. So it would be really lovely to have a nice dark brown here. You want to make sure that where the snake's body is against the trunk of the tree, it's pretty even. You don't want the snake to pop out too far, and you don't want the tree to be too skinny because then the illusion won't work. We want the illusion that the snake has wrapped around this tree and is being supported by this tree. I think circular motions with the crayon works best. It seems to fill in the area more evenly than the straight up and down like that. So maybe like you're making ovals to really fill a space. All right, boys and girls, let's go ahead and add more detail. We still have the foliage, the leaves of this tree to fill in. Maybe some coming down here, and you can be creative in this part. Add in more leaves to fill the tree out. What I would love to see to add more detail is more apples in that tree. Right? They could have chosen to take another, but they shared one. More apples in that tree, and we're going to fill in the whole top. So let me add one here and here. And then we're just filling in leaf after leaf. I'll show you how I do my leaves, kind of like a V, and just fill in. V, fill in. You can even add some other color leaves. We're thinking lush and full here. This is the most magical place. This is a place where things grow all on their own. A place where no one has to work to keep it alive. It naturally grows and flourishes. So as many beautiful, lush details as you can add will really help to paint the picture. Something like that, right? And again, depending on how you feel, you can keep going. You can add flowers along the bottom. You know, we don't want to mess with our central image too much. This is the point here. The point is that Eve has chosen to follow along with what the snake is asking of her. Adam has chosen to follow along with what Eve has to say. Right? Maybe a couple stray hairs. All right, and last but not least, make sure your crayon is clean. And what I mean by that is sometimes I like to take a scrap sheet of paper and go like this a couple times to my crayon when I'm going to be adding a background. See how my crayon had some red streaks, some other color streaks? Clean your crayon a bit off before you go in for your background. So here is the blue of the background. Just so lightly covering our page. Here we go. Adam and Eve in the garden.